Welcome everyone to this edition of the Regal Live Series. Regal Live Series is a weekly live program where we enable coaches to establish a successful business commercially by enabling them to become the best coaches that they can be. In today's edition, we have with us Dr. Sai Giridhar. Sai is a PhD. He has over 14 years of experience in teaching, mentoring, and associated fields, and PhD in biochemistry at that. And he's also engaged in meditative practices and has facilitated meditation programs. And we incidentally also share the same alma mater. And thank you, Sai, for joining today.
Thank you, Anirud.
So today's topic that we would like to discuss is the importance of company to achieve your goals. So to start with, Sai, what are your thoughts on company?
Well, I grew up in a Gurukula system. As you said, we share the same alma mater. And one quote that literally meant a lot for us was, "Tell me your company, I shall tell you what you are." And it's very interesting that company, as I look at it today, um, has been a journey of understanding over many years now. And it starts off by thinking about the people who you are with, people around you with whom you spend the maximum number of time. It is also famously said that you're probably the average of the five people you spend most time with. So that's the general perception of company. But I look at how this has evolved within me today, and I see that company to me today means a lot more to do with my own mind and how uh, the inner conversations happen within me, because I realize that the maximum time that I spend really is with my mind, not with any individual per se. And therefore, drawing from the same quote, if I am to look at who am I spending the maximum time with, it is actually myself, my mind to begin with. So yeah, company for me means that company also triggers, the word company triggers a certain analogy for me. Um, this I heard from my master, and I see a reflection of this very deeply in the coaching process. He gave me this example and said that if you truly want to be ignited like the master itself, and here the master can be a symbol of a master coach as well, in the professional realm. He said if you want to be ignited like the master, it's very simple. The master is like a piece of coal that is lit. It's burning, and all you need to do is, you are also a piece of coal. You just need to be dry and in the close proximity to a burning piece of coal, and what will happen is the heat gets transferred and you also are aflame. So for me, company is that. In the spiritual context, we call it satsang, literally the company of truth. But I see the value of this in various dimensions of relationships, the various dimensions of interactions that we have in life as well.
So, Sai, thank you for bringing that analogy and for the discussion, the conversation you had with our master. So, if I understand from that, his guidance is that you be ready. If you are ready, like the dry coal, then the company helps you achieve whatever you would like to achieve.
Absolutely. And thank you for using the word being ready, the phrase being ready, rather. Um, because even in the coaching process, as coaches, we know that unless the coachee is willing and ready, there is no coaching process there. We don't encourage people to take up coaching if they are not willing to. So, readiness from a coachee point of view is very important. Even for a coach, I would say, because a coach is not an absolute um, personality. Right? We see that as coaches, we constantly grow. Um, and, in the context of today's topic, therefore, company becomes very important as well. but this readiness to grow and to look at ourselves is equally important. And as I began this conversation with this point, saying that uh, the person I'm spending maximum time with is actually myself, my mind, my thoughts, my own belief systems and values. You see, so yeah, being ready is very important.
So, Sai, this is a natural segue to our next segment. You are a man of science in a land of spirituality. And coaching is a very self reflective process. Of course, it's a process, but there is more to it than just the steps that are laid out. What was your calling towards coaching?
Strangely, I had a very natural progression towards coaching, I would say. Um, when I met Mr. Subhash, who's the first professional coach that I really met, um, and I had a chat with him, he made a beautiful presentation to me about how the coaching process actually works, and I quickly recognized that it is not very different from a deeply spiritual process which I was exposed to. At the same time, the methodology is scientific, which you introduced me as a scientist from a spiritual space, and I found coaching to be a natural confluence of these two. The coaching presence being a very spiritual process for me. I truly believe that, and I know it to be true for myself. And while the coaching process that we have, the methodology that we follow, the ICF standards and the CCs that we follow is very scientific. So coming from a science and spirituality background, for me, coaching became a very natural, next step to take.
So, if I may, I saw that you smiled when you said that the coaching process is actually very scientific. I would invite you to reflect a little bit on that.
Yeah, I find it scientific because in science, we believe in having a standard environment to conduct an experiment, you see. And it's important for a scientist to be curious all the time. Curiosity is probably the most profound value for a scientist, as much as ethics is and responsible conduct is. And guess what? All these three values are, resonate well with coaches as well. So I see that the coaching process embodies a certain discipline which involves these values of curiosity, of responsible conduct, ethics, and a systematic process. So we don't change the process. We may, as we often say in the coaching conversations, we say that we tango with the coachee. But at the same time, the undercurrent of all that movement that we go through with the coachee is a very systematic process. So you see, that way I find it very scientific. I also find it scientific because of the hours of research that has gone into developing this methodology. You see, so repeatability and reproducibility are two again important aspects of a scientific process or experiment, which I do see relevant here in the coaching methodology.
Thank you for that, Sai. Once you discovered that you have a calling towards coaching, many of them choose to coach without even getting certified or credentialed. But you chose to pursue Regal coaching certification. So, what made you take that step towards certification?
Fundamentally, I would say Subhash sold it very well to me to begin with. But that's not the reason, though, alone, because I saw that it is important to be trained by a competent agency in order to understand the nitty-gritties of the method. The coaching competencies are available online. There are many YouTube videos on. In fact, I was introduced to YouTube videos about the coaching competencies way before I decided to be a coach. Uh, but then, in my conversation with Mr. Subhash, I realized quickly that I need to learn this from somebody with experience. And in fact, the context of this conversation is still company, and I want to touch upon that. When we say company, it is about the experience of the individual, not just the information that they have, you see. And that matters a lot. In the Coaching Unlimited that I was part of in February this year, uh, that was one of my biggest takeaways, because I was able to be in synergy with three of the top coaches in the country, and their experience was what I was truly marinating myself in. So you see, I saw the need for a systematic approach to coaching that needed to come from a competent agency, from a competent coach, mentor coach, and therefore credentials were important to me. And today I can say that I was not wrong in thinking so.
So, Sai, thank you for bringing up Coaching Unlimited. So, naturally, we can move to that topic now. So, you also want to touch upon the importance of good company. So, first, from wanting to become a coach, you're getting certified. What I've observed is that you did not stop even there. You wanted to continue to educate yourself, upskill yourself to develop a successful coaching business. So, it's a two-part question. I would request you to answer them together. What prompted you to continue, the investment to educate yourself? Number one, and number two would be, please share your experience about the recent Coaching Unlimited Edition 5.
Thank you for the questions, Anil. The first question, I partly answered it in the sense that a coach is not a fixed personality. Um, a set of skills don't make you coach, and we are always striving for excellence. And therefore, in that process, to be a coach, it is very important to constantly upgrade ourselves. And it's not merely in terms of information. And as I said, for me, the company that I had in Coaching Unlimited mattered a lot, for a simple reason that, be it the mentor coaches or the peers for that matter, all of us were driven towards excellence. And in such an environment of excellence, growth is accelerated. And I would like to actually take up one of the points that were discussed in this year's Coaching Unlimited by John, and I acknowledge John for bringing up this beautiful point from the science background, which is of mirror neurons. And mirror neurons uh, are neurons that form around 20% of our motor command neurons. And what they basically mean is, when we do a particular action, like I pick up an object, the motor command neurons are fired in the brain. Incidentally, what scientists found is that if you pick up an object like this, it will still fire a neuron in my brain, which was interesting to know, right? So, which means there is this ability. I'm not going to go into too much detail of this, but there is this ability of our brain to mimic, to imitate, and to emulate what it is seeing, what it is observing. But there are scientists, especially psychologists, I would say, who go a step deeper and say that mirror neurons probably also have this ability to capture the intention of the person, which is much more subtler than just the action, as you would note. And and therefore it means that we all are having actually a shared living. We don't really, in fact, you must listen to this TED talk by Professor Ramachandran from California University, who talks very passionately about about this topic. And he, in fact, says that for somebody who has lost their limb, say they have lost their hand because of amputation or accident or whatever it may be, sometimes they have the syndrome of feeling as if it is still there. They even feel pain in the missing part of the hand. And scientific experiments have shown that if they see somebody else's hand being massaged, the person who is having this phantom limb syndrome actually feels relief in the pain, which is very strange, right? But then what he concludes is, this is happening to us all the time when we see other people. But because there is skin on this body, and the skin is continuously transmitting information to the brain, the skin kind of tells us that, boss, it is not your, nobody's touching you, basically. They're touching somebody else. So don't get confused. But what if the skin did not send this information? He says, in fact, if you anesthetize this hand and it does not feel anything, it does not have any sensation, and you see somebody touching someone else, you may actually think they're touching you. And he goes on to make an hypothesis to say that probably this proves the Eastern philosophy that there is no separation between us. It is only created in that sense by the neural system in the body, you see. So company has a very deep effect that way. We are having a shared experience, and today company does not mean only people. We are on phones all the time, we are on laptop, we are on the system, consuming content. And in our spiritual tradition also, we don't look at food as only what we take in through the mouth, what we see, what we hear, the sensation of touch, smell. All of this comprises of the food or the input that goes into making our mind. And as I said, mind probably is our closest companion that way, and therefore it's important how we treat it, what goes in. Having provided this context, I would say that Coaching Unlimited gave me a platform where I could have a co-living space, literally, with some of the best minds in the country and some of the most amazing peer coaches that I have ever met. And we are actually more like a family, and that's what I felt. And even today, we are in touch over WhatsApp, and they're always available for each other to answer our questions or encourage us for what we are doing. And I think this kind of an ambience is very important for growth. So growth is critical for a coach. And secondly, Coaching Unlimited provides such an ambience for us, where we can co-live with mentor coaches who are such wonderful coaching presence by themselves. And we had John, we had PK, and we had Subhash with us this time. And uh, I genuinely feel that I still live with them in some sense. There is a lot that I have gained from them. There is a lot that I've gained from my peer coaches, and it carries forward. And I can give you one example, if time permits,
Please,
um,
please.
about the impact that it had. I remember this coming through the sessions as well, that the coaching presence actually needs to be practiced even in a family atmosphere. A coach cannot be a coach only in the coaching session, but we need to practice the coaching presence across various aspects of life. This is something that came up. And I actually went on to sit with one of my peer coaches, and I wanted a 360 done of myself, literally. And Roshni, my peer coach, helped me with this. She's also part of the Regal Unlimited coaching process. And she helped me with this 360 process. And guess what? It emerged for me again that I have to practice this coaching presence in my relationships, in my other interactions in life, just to be a better human being to begin with, to improve my relationships at home. So the impact that Coaching Unlimited had on me, I think, goes way beyond the scope of what the program itself defined for itself. That is to say, we are going to talk about coaching and the business of coaching, which were the two basic modules of the program. But I think it was way beyond that.
So, Sai, this segment was, I must say, you brought in so many insights. The way you mentioned about mirror neurons and the concept of phantom limbs has always fascinated me. And you reflected on that, and kind of to show that we can understand intention, and that is revealing. So, you used to call yourself a life coach, and then now you call yourself a transformation coach.
Hmm.
So, why this niche, and how did you arrive at this niche?
Huh. So if I look at the last 7, 8 years of my life before I got into professional coaching this way, um, I was doing deep transformative processes as part of my work. I would research into them, develop programs, and deliver. So they were more training and mentoring processes that I had developed. Coaching to some extent, not in the way ICF teaches us, but to some extent would happen very spontaneously when people would come and sit with you and discuss their life. And that's the kind of very vague coaching that would happen. But I would see the impact that transformation has, and what I love about the coaching process is, and I reiterate that it is a deeply spiritual process for me, uh, is the focus is on the who. The coachee may come with a problem, and that is the what of the coachee, but the focus is on the who, and that who is ever deepening, you see. And it's deepening because we practice having unconditional positive regard. It deepens all the way to believing that they have infinite possibilities, or in a spiritual context you can even say they are divine, you see. So which means transformation not just at a level of functionality in the world, but transformation to the point of, say, one of the often quoted great personalities in this time's Coaching Unlimited, I was reminded, was Ramana Maharshi by PK. He would often refer to him, and he would say, to be a Ramana Maharshi, what would it take, so I think transformation to that extent, you know uh, that really touches my heart. I resonate with transformation, because probably I have been through it myself over a couple of decades in the place I grew up, which is Puttaparthi. So yeah, so transformation is very natural, and I enjoy the results of transformation so much more. Of course, it is the coach's choice as to how much they wish to transform themselves, but I truly enjoy the fruits of transformation.
Sai, thank you for this wonderful conversation. Time just flew. I just checked and we're 2 minutes over time. I feel I would request you to come back soon as a guest again to discuss more about what transformation coaching is and your experience with your clients. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in today. See you next week on Thursday from 9 to 9:20 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Have a great evening.